Hi, good evening. How are you doing? Welcome to my daily live session on various topics for creating world-class companies and exceptional leaders. Today, I would be talking about the EFQM model, as I had mentioned on Friday last week. Hope you all had a nice weekend. So let me straight away dig into my recap first, and after that, get into the topic of the day. So I started with talking about mindset and culture change, and then went on to explain the chakras, which basically are the way I would describe the various flows in an organization. Then after that, spoke about learning to learn a system and then mindset and all that. Then I directly went on to the next set of series, which would be mainly to do talk about the assessment of a company, assessment of the maturity of an organization as to where do they stand when it comes to the flow. And the first thing which I spoke about was a very simple assessment, which is a 5 years assessment, which is very simple. Anybody can do that. It's not so complicated. Here, it's about ensuring that the 5 levels of sorting, straightening, shining, standardizing, and sustaining are being done for items, documents, information, and resources in a company. So that's the first which I explained. And after that, I went on to talk about the CMMI model, which is a little more structured, a structured assessment of maturity of flows in an organization. And then today, I'm going to be introducing you to the EFQM model. I had spoken to you about talking about the EFQM model, which was this kind of a picture, which I showed you on Friday. This is the later model, the 2019 model. Earlier to that was the 2013 model. This model is still under rollout. I'll talk about that once I've explained the 2013 model, where I've done the assessments quite a few times in multiple companies. So let me start talking about that. And to do that, I need to change the layout here so that you can see the slide a little bigger. So from now on, again, another learning which I have been having of late is that I speak a little fast. That's the feedback which I got. So I'll try to speak a little slower so that you can follow me. In case you want me to speak even slower, so please let me know. So let me talk about this model. EFQM stands for European Foundation for Quality Management. I'm not sure if any of you have read the book In Search of Excellence. This was released sometime in the 80s, is what I remember, which spoke about a research done, I think it was Stanford or MIT, one of the two colleges there in US, where they basically went on to find out what is the core DNA, or what is the core essence which makes companies world class. And that's the reason the book was titled In Search of Excellence. You can also look it and then read that if you are interested in. I did that way back in 80s, where practices in such companies which have sustained ups and downs over so many decades have been summarized together as a research activity. And based on that, I'm sure maybe based on that, or based on the concept of Deming of continual improvement and excellence, total quality management. In Japan, a kind of a countrywide prize was introduced, which was called as the Deming Prize. Even today, it is in vogue. There are a lot of companies, even Indian companies, who have won the Deming Prize. Deming Prize, again, is talking about total quality management and how you are going to achieve consistent value to all the stakeholders of your organization. And then after that, there were two more initiatives. One was in the US, and there the kind of award or the system which they defined was called as the Malcolm Baldrige Award. And then in Europe, they created the EFQM Award, which is originating from the European Foundation for Quality Management. Incidentally, Bosch also is one of the founder members of EFQM. Apart from Bosch, there are many other German companies, Siemens, BMW, and all that, the well-known brands, where the idea was to bring all the experts in these companies together to describe the practices. The same is the principle in all the other awards too, where there is a set of practices described which are consistent in companies of what should I say, excellence, which have survived ups and downs over centuries, decades definitely, and some of them even more than a century. And there, in the EFQM model, basically the entire practices were divided into these structures. They said that in any organization, there are some enablers, which you see on the left side of the slide, which gives rise to results. These enablers, they said, are enabler practices, which would be practices of leadership, which is the extremely important one. That is the one which is setting the direction for a company. And then practices for people, which ensures that people are excited, energized, inspired to move towards that leadership. Then practices for developing a strategy and deploying a strategy. Practices to do with partnerships and resources. And finally, practices regarding processes, products, and services. These were the enablers, and on the right side you see the results, which was again the idea was to really bring in comprehensive, overall thorough value to all the stakeholders. Stakeholders being five, which would be the shareholders, the customers, employees, society, and people. People, of course, people are the biggest stakeholders of any company because they are the ones who are getting their livelihood there. So starting with the results of the people, then customer results, society results, and business results. These would be the four result areas that one would look at. When you look at the business results, even there inside the business results, also the results of the business partners are included in that. When I say business partners, it could be the business performance indicators of the vendors and how happy they are, how satisfied they are. All that comes under business results. So basically, the idea was to really look at enablers which are going to give rise to results. And these enablers are something which are defined in groups, which could be leadership, people, strategy, partnership, resources, processes, products, and services. And the results would be for the five areas, which would be people, customer, society, business results, including that of the partners. So that is the basic model which they described. And this model basically spoke about practices, various kinds of practices that are existing in world-class companies. And those companies which survived for more than a century, definitely, of course, decades. And they also ensured that they created consistent value to all the stakeholders, consistently increasing value to all the stakeholders, to be even more precise. Then, based on these practices, the companies then went on to try to look at those practices and see what can be implemented, what cannot be implemented. And once these practices were implemented, they also wanted to find out where do they stand when it comes to their maturity. And that's where the assessment comes into picture. So this ritual was being done, or is still even today being done once a year. This year was rather weak because of COVID. All happened online. Otherwise, it's a very, very rigorous activity for you to just get an idea for a company, let us say with a turnover of about 10,000 crores or 12,000 crores, a large company or a multinational company. Let me talk about the recent one which I did, where the company's turnover is close to about 14,000 crores. And the assessment would begin by the company submitting a kind of a report, which is called as the situation or the status document, which position document, which basically talks about what are all the practices that the companies have implemented and what are they doing in terms of leadership, people, strategy, partnerships, processes, products, and services, and how are these practices resulting into exceptional value to each stakeholder. That is what the entire position document would describe, and that is given to all the assessors. Before that, the assessor team is formed. Typically, the assessment team would be with experts and seniors who have been in the executive role from various companies. Those who are competing also will be part of a team, of course, not assessing a competing company, that without any conflict of interest. And then there would be a team formed. I was initially doing sometime in 2010 and 11 as an assessor, and after that I've been working as a senior assessor. Senior assessor's job is to lead the team. I am kind of a leader of the team. Team normally would comprise of about 5 to 6 people, and all of these are executives from companies. It could be the head of quality, head of operations, VP sales, VP marketing, or EVP marketing. All the top second level of any company. And for a mid-sized company, a CEO also could be part of the team. And so there are people who are working people, not any specialists from any industry, any institution or anything like that. And this team also could have some experts from the educational sector, academia. Some professor from the management school could be there. Some dean of a management school could be there. So this team would be comprised of people from various walks of various industries, which are having no conflicting interests. And once the team is formed, the entire team gets the position document. And after that, our job is to look through whatever that, read through whatever that they have written there, and try to understand what are their practices when it comes to leadership, when it comes to people, strategy, partnership, resources, processes, products, and services. And then see if these processes which they have empowered, or the enablers which they have introduced, the practices which they have introduced and implemented, have they resulted in any results, and is that consistent over time? Therefore, you look at consistency and also look at the robustness of the process. And that's the basic idea of the assessment. And as an outcome of the assessment, a lot of strengths and opportunities for improvement are prepared. That is the first phase, where the entire thing is done individually by each assessor. And as a senior assessor, I would coordinate by making sure that everybody have understood what needs to be done, and everybody have written strengths and OFIs which are meaningful. And once that is done, then we have a couple of telecons to make sure that this is all done in consensus, people agree. Because one thing is very important. I may feel, for the sake of feeling, that, look, this guy's leadership practice of talking to his employees is not good. Somebody may feel it is excellent. I don't think we should work with feelings. Therefore, there is a debate which happens. And then we conclude whether it's a strength or a improvement opportunity, and what is the level of the strength and the improvement opportunity. That is what happens during the telecons. There's a preparatory phase. First, individual assessment. Then after that, collective assessment in the consensus on telecons. Then the process is to go to the factory, go to the plant, go to the company. I'd been to utility company, manufacturing company, then financial services company. It could be any company. Go to the company and there spend at least a week, mind you, a week, where as the assessor, my job would be to interview all people, top management, labor, then contract labor, then trainees, and any employee who is there in the company. I need to interview them to find out their perceptions, because the consistency in increasing the value comes one side with the numbers. Second is the perception also. So you need to capture the perception to really understand if the practices are really resulting into any improvement in the perception. The objective is not to say whatever they are doing is right or wrong. It's only to talk about telling the company, assessing the company from my perspective as an assessor, as a executive in my executive role, to really say what is good, what is not good in my perspective. And that's the basic objective of assessment, not about talking good or bad. Of course, these companies are damn good. They are really good. And that's the reason they're really working at that level of going into a EFQM award. And so that 1 week would be basically talking to various people. In my assessments, I have always made 2-3 things, which is very interesting, which was a little distinct from the other assessments. First thing is that I would always want to participate in 1 or 2 of the regular meetings, to really see what is the spirit there, what are the topics that they discuss, and how is it done? Is it fact based? Is it emotional based? Is it just what should I say, without any direction at all, the meeting happens? How is that structure of the meeting? It could be a daily review, could be a weekly review, or a monthly review. That's something which I insist. I sit and participate there, and the insights they get and insights I get is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. There was one company where they would update everything in SAP, and they in fact had even minutes of the meeting done in SAP, outstanding on live, so that they could really track the progress of each action. But then the problem was when the metrics were really not moving at all. There was absolutely no reaction at all from anybody. They were more concentrated in the meeting minutes and making sure that the actions are completed. I'm not sure what the reason was. Maybe the earlier assessor could have told that. But to really prioritize where do you focus on was not existing. And for me, the learning was to really do it in SAP, which was something new. Like that, each company have their own strength and their own opportunity for improvement. That is the activity which I would do. And the second thing which I have been doing is to talk to all the stakeholders. That means create groups of people where we would interview. It could be groups of customers, or it could be individual interviews with customers, individual interviews with vendors, with some members of the society around that organization, or it could be interviews with the trade union, interviews with randomly selected workmen, interviews with randomly selected contract labor. In fact, with one of the companies, I'm very proud to say that it's an Indian multinational company, very much Indian multinational company. We were conducting an interview with the stakeholders and interviewers with the contract labor. They employ quite a good amount of contract labor because a lot of manual activities there in that particular organization. And this interview was really nice. And then we started having the interview. And that organization typically had one system of ensuring that there is absolutely no visible differentiation between a permanent employee and a contract employee. The only difference was the permanent employee had some other additional welfare measures, whereas the contract employee was not having those welfare measures. Otherwise, everything was identical. And so we started the interview, and generally we were asking, what is it, how is it going on? They said that it is fantastic, job is great, and we are very happy and all that. And finally I was asking them, what is it that you tell? And they said that, look, there is nothing to come. We are comfortable in the sense we are getting our salaries, everything. The only difference is that we are not considered as employees, that's all. Otherwise, there is no differentiation. In fact, they didn't have any two canteens. Many companies do that. They have a separate canteen for contract, separate for permanent employees. Single canteen, no differentiation. And even in terms of the uniform, identical, no differentiation. And the additional interesting thing was, many companies say that the contractor, who is a subcontractor, he has to provide the safety protection equipment. In this company, they were very clear. We are responsible for the safety of our people, so we will provide. Whether he's a contractor or he's an employee, he's a human being, so we will do that. Things of that kind, which really made a big difference. There's absolutely no differentiation. When you enter the factory and he didn't have a shoe, nothing, no problem, we'll buy him another shoe. And in case he lost the shoe 2-3 times, then they will deduct it from his salary. Otherwise, no. And that kind of a magnitude is what that really brings people together. And that I really felt very, very happy. The same company, when we were talking to union members, they said that they have a hospital of their own inside the camp, wherever they have got their manufacturing facility. They have got a big society. It's a kind of a community by itself, and they have a hospital. But then they don't have a insurance. And then companies in Bangalore and other big companies have insurance, medical insurance. So this union guy said that, look, we don't have any problem. In case we fall sick, our company takes care of us. In case our parents fall sick, company takes care of us. In case our children fall sick, company takes care of us. We don't have any problem at all, sir. But then, see, in many companies, they say that there is something like a medical insurance. Would you like, maybe we should tell the company to get us medical insurance, and to really look at a union, where the union office bearers, where they're really telling no problem at all with me, nothing to do, nothing at all, and asking for something which possibly would be an add-on, but really doesn't make any sense. Insurance is done because the company here, in the other companies, may not be interested in spending that money without any limit at all for any casualty. And this company which we visited, again, a company which is one of the top company in the world in their market segment, the largest in the world, and possibly the third largest in the world, and the largest in India. And they must be having a turnover of about 12,000 crores. And mind you, the idea was very simple. See, we are running business to enhance the quality of life, and therefore we do business. And that's the primary driver of doing the business. And that's something which reminded me of a talk by a Toyota executive in Germany, when we had organized the manufacturing conference there. And that was a manufacturing conference with all the top manufacturing executives worldwide. And in that conference, this Toyota guy said that, look, Toyota has the basic purpose of enhancing the quality of life in Japan. And we know that to enhance quality of life, we need money, and we can generate money by doing business. The only thing that we need to do is motor vehicles, cars, and therefore we make cars to generate money to enhance the quality of life of people in Japan. And that is something very touching, isn't it? That kind of a noble purpose will really get anybody around you, and to really go and hit whatever that you want. And this company is one such. So I just wanted to tell you that's the depth with which we would go during an assessment. And that's why it's very thorough, and it's a very, very thorough assessment which is done for a company. And why am I talking about this? Because I wanted to get back at some point of time to talk about how my assessment is with chakras. That is the end objective of whatever I'm explaining now. So let us see how the assessment looks like in the next 2 slides very quickly, because this is, I don't think you would be able to understand this. This is very, what should I say, a long process. It'll take easily a couple of weeks to understand. So I will just briefly explain what it is. When it comes to enablers, what are chapter approaches? Are they sound and integrated? Then whether they are deployed, that means implemented and structured, and whether the assessment and refinement is being done for the approaches. So for the practices, which are the enablers, so that you are constantly able to improve them. That is the 3 areas that one would look at. And in terms of the scale, it will be the same for enablers and for results. Like I said, there are assessment is done for enablers and assessment is done for results. And in terms of the scale, the first level is unable to demonstrate. That is at the bottom here. The second would be to talk about limited liability to demonstrate, able to demonstrate, fully able to demonstrate, and recognize as a global role model. And in terms of the spread, that basically is done based on the how much amount of that practice is spread across the organization. And there you start from a percentage of 0 to a total of 100%. 0 to 100% is the score that you get based on these 4 or 5 levels. As an assessor, I would basically tell that they're able to demonstrate, or they're fully able to demonstrate, or it's a recognized as global role model. In this case, the company which I mentioned, their practices with contract labor is definitely a global role model, and that could be something which wins. And in fact, in Bosch, when we were there, one of the practices which we had was a global role model, which was the consistency with which we would conduct meetings and do assessments, and that kind of a learning loops which we had built in the organization, which is the foundation of my learning to learn system, which I created later on my own. That became a global role model. We were really doing fantastically well. And that started from a foundation of having what is called as the top, which is team-oriented production. And then this is as far as the enablers are concerned. Similarly, for results, we would look at relevance and usability of the metrics, whichever they are measuring, and what is the performance of those metrics in terms of performance, in terms of relevance and usability, scope and relevance, integrity and segmentation, in terms of performance, trends, targets, comparisons, and confidence. Whether we have got, as an assessor, confidence that the same thing will repeat in the future. It's not about predictability, but the kind of a gut assessment of the ability of the company to predict in the future, ability of the results to be predicted in the future based on the stability of the past. And again, trend is always for the last 3 years. Therefore, no company would get an award in the first year. It will take at least 4 to 5 years to get an award, because they need to demonstrate a trend for 3 years first, then only go to the next level. And again, here on the scale, it is the same as what I showed earlier. So this is a very brief introduction to EFQM and its assessment criteria. Tomorrow, I'll be talking about the new model, 2019 model. And first, I'll explain the model in detail. Then I'll talk. Assessment is the same as what we used to do earlier. The only difference is that the text may have changed here a little, but that doesn't really make a big difference. But what is important is the foundation, the basic model itself has changed. That's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. And thanks a lot for watching. And please do get back to me in case you have any questions or queries, or you want to suggest something. So looking forward to hearing from you. And thanks a lot once again. For those of you in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day ahead. See you tomorrow, more or less the same time, on the topic of the new EFQM model as a basis for assessment of an organization. Thank you so much, and goodbye.